What if I told you Hollywood has a secret list, a list so dark, so explosive, that studios, agents, and insiders pretend it doesn't even exist? A list filled with famous faces who didn't just die too soon, they were removed. These weren't random tragedies. These were warnings, punishments, cover-ups. Hollywood stood in the spotlight, but its darkest dealings happened in the shadows, where favors came with threats and secrets came with body counts. Their endings were edited. And the truth? It's more chilling than any movie they ever made. Here are 25 celebrities whose deaths many believe were part of Hollywood's hidden kill list. 24. Gianni Russo's Circle. Gianni Russo's Hollywood life always carried a shadow because the people around him didn't just look dangerous, they were unsafe. He walked between two worlds, glamorous movie sets and the quiet, watchful presence of real mob figures who treated him like one of their own. Over the years, several men in his circle were taken out in true Mafia fashion, leaving behind a trail of sudden disappearances, silent funerals, and closed-door whispers in Hollywood bars. These weren't accidents or coincidences. They were reminders that stepping too close to the underworld could cost anyone far more than fame. 23. Johnny Stompanato. Johnny Stompanato's life looked like a Hollywood script gone wrong. He was charming, stylish, and always seen with famous actresses, but everyone knew he carried the quiet confidence of a man protected by dangerous friends. His connection to powerful mob figures made him both feared and untouchable, until one night, he was turned into one of Hollywood's most shocking cases. His death was ruled a domestic tragedy, yet whispers never stopped. Many believed the mob stepped in afterward, making sure no one dug too deep. His story became a haunting reminder of how fame and criminal power can collide in deadly ways. 22. Ted Binion. Ted Binion lived like a man who had everything: money, power, fame, and a long history with men the world feared. As the heir to a Vegas empire, he moved in circles filled with casino bosses, mob enforcers, and high-rolling entertainers who weren't always playing the same game. When he was found dead under strange circumstances, the story felt staged, almost too neat. Investigators struggled with clues that pointed in several directions, including the shadows of organized crime. His death exposed the danger of mixing wealth with people who only respected strength, and it left a dark stain on casino history. 21. The Notorious B.I.G. The Notorious B.I.G. came to Los Angeles to rebuild bridges, not burn them, but he stepped into a city already boiling with tension, rivalries, and the growing reach of crime groups tied to the music business. When his SUV rolled to a stop at that red light, the hit felt planned, clean, and chillingly professional. The shooter vanished into the night like it was rehearsed. Over the years, investigators uncovered links that hinted at organized networks far bigger than simple street beef. His murder became one of the most talked-about killings in music, frozen in silence by people afraid to speak. 20. Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur lived with intensity, love, anger, and the constant feeling that powerful forces were circling him. The night he was shot in Las Vegas, it didn't feel like a random ambush. It felt like something carefully watched, maybe even expected, by those who understood the criminal politics beneath the feud. The attack was carried out with the precision of men used to violence, and the aftermath left more questions than answers. Over time, investigators traced threads that touched gang leaders, industry figures, and groups connected to organized crime. His death became a symbol of how hidden wars can swallow talent. 19. Dorothy Kilgallen. Dorothy Kilgallen wasn't an actress or singer, but she was one of television's most recognizable faces, and that made her dangerous to the wrong people. As she dug into stories involving the Mafia and their political connections, she pushed past the lines journalists were never supposed to cross. Her death came just as she claimed she was close to exposing something explosive. The scene looked quiet and staged, as if arranged to close her chapter without noise. Friends insisted she feared she was being watched, and many still believe her investigation pulled her into a world where powerful men silence threats permanently. 18. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke wasn't just a singer. He was a force, a businessman, and a man determined to take control of his music in an industry ruled by people who hated losing money. When he started pushing for ownership, publishing rights, and independence, he stepped on the toes of powerful figures with deep roots in organized crime. His death was packaged as a chaotic night gone wrong, but the details never fit cleanly. Too many things felt arranged, from the missing money to the shifting stories. His final hours remain one of music's darkest mysteries, tied to people who preferred silence over answers. 17. Bobby Fuller. Bobby Fuller was on the edge of superstardom when his life took a turn far darker than anything in his songs. His hit, I Fought the Law, made him a rising idol, but behind the music industry's smile sat people with serious control over contracts, clubs, and distribution. When he was found dead in his car, the scene looked staged, almost like someone wanted it to resemble a tragic accident. Those who knew him whispered about business pressures, dangerous men, and a growing struggle over his career. His sudden death felt like a warning wrapped in mystery and fear. 16. Sal Mineo. Sal Mineo broke barriers as an actor, earning fame young and pushing into roles Hollywood wasn't ready for. But he also drifted into circles where drugs, debts, and quiet criminal networks mixed with parties and late-night deals. When he was stabbed outside his home, the official version painted it as random, yet investigators and friends felt the attack carried more intention. There were rumors of unpaid money, dangerous acquaintances, and people who wanted him silent. His death remained clouded by contradictions, turning him into one more Hollywood figure whose ending felt too violent to be a simple chance. 15. Carmen LaBianca. Rosemary LaBianca moved in Los Angeles social circles where wealth, influence, and shadowy business dealings often blended. Her murder shocked Hollywood, officially tied to the Manson family, but many knew the story was more tangled. The drug trade during that era connected Manson's world to criminal groups with far bigger operations, and whispers suggested Rosemary and her husband had crossed paths with men tied to organized networks. The brutality of the crime felt symbolic, almost staged to send a message. Her death became a haunting piece of a larger puzzle involving drugs, fear, and criminal influence spreading through the city. 14. Jake Robles. Jake Robles lived close to the music world's roughest edges, working beside artists whose careers were linked to clubs, promoters, and security crews run by people with serious criminal reach. When he was shot outside a crowded venue, it wasn't dismissed as street violence. Witnesses and insiders spoke about dangerous men, power struggles, and debts buried behind the nightlife. His killing carried the same chilling precision found in organized hits, leaving those around him shaken. Jake's death didn't just end a life, it exposed how the music industry sometimes brushed shoulders with men who solved problems through violence, not negotiation. 13. Jimmy Hoffa. Jimmy Hoffa wasn't a movie star, but he was one of the most famous figures in America, and his disappearance plays out like the ultimate mafia thriller. As the longtime leader of the Teamsters Union, he controlled money, contracts, and influence that many powerful men depended on. When he tried to claw back his position, he challenged mob bosses who didn't appreciate rebellion. The day he vanished, he walked into a meeting that should have been routine, but he was never seen again. Nobody, no final clues, just a cold, professional silence. His end stands as one of history's most chilling organized crime killings. 12. Virginia Hill of Virginia Hill. Moved through Hollywood circles with a kind of electric confidence, but her life was tangled deep inside the Mafia world. She was Bugsy Siegel's closest companion, the woman who saw everything, heard everything, and carried secrets that scared powerful men. After Siegel was murdered, every step she took put her in greater danger, especially as investigators linked her to hidden money trails and mob operations. When she was found dead in Austria, officials rushed to call it a suicide, but nothing about it felt natural. Many believed the Mafia silenced her to protect the very secrets she once lived beside. 11. Willie Moretti. Willie Moretti moved through Hollywood's nightlife like a man everyone wanted to avoid, yet secretly needed. He helped musicians, actors, and entertainers secure contracts, gigs, and protection. But his methods weren't exactly gentle. As Frank Sinatra's early mentor, he carried influence that stretched far beyond New Jersey. When his behavior grew unpredictable, the mob saw him as a liability, someone who might say the wrong thing to the wrong people. His execution inside a quiet restaurant sent shockwaves through show business. It was a clean, controlled hit meant to silence a man who knew far too much about Hollywood's hidden dealings. 10. Harry Big Greenie Greenberg. Harry Greenberg lived at the intersection of crime and Hollywood glamour, always moving between sunny Los Angeles and the dark business of organized rackets. His ties to Benjamin Siegel and Lucky Luciano made him a valuable insider, but loyalty in that world was always fragile. When he threatened to cooperate with authorities, the decision sealed his fate. He was lured out and shot multiple times in a cold, quiet neighborhood. His murder became one of the most famous examples of the mob protecting its secrets, proving how quickly a man could vanish when he crossed the line between silence and survival. 9. Frank Gallucci. Frank Gallucci was a familiar figure in California's entertainment circles, known for his charm, sharp dressing, and connections that reached deep into criminal networks. He wasn't a household name to the public, but he was well known to performers, promoters, and industry players who understood how influential he really was. When he was gunned down, the method was unmistakably professional, executed by people who left no loose ends. His death revealed how the Mafia infiltrated Hollywood's ecosystem through men who existed in the background. Men like Gallucci, who quietly pulled strings until the moment the underworld decided he had outlived his usefulness. 8. Carmine Galante. Carmine Galante's name carried a weight that reached from New York streets to Hollywood business offices. He had a reputation for running drug operations that touched celebrities, clubs, and nightlife scenes across the country. His violent temper and rapid rise made him a threat even to his own allies. When he was assassinated at a Brooklyn Titi Moan restaurant, the hit looked like a scene from a movie, brutal, direct, and designed to send a message. His death reminded everyone that no matter how powerful a mob boss became, the moment he challenged the wrong people, the organization removed him with terrifying efficiency. 7. Paul Castellano. Paul Castellano kept a careful distance from old-school mob violence, preferring business suits and corporate-style crime that often brushed against unions, celebrities, and entertainment deals. He was known for handling disputes quietly, but that calm image crumbled when tensions inside his organization exploded. His assassination outside a Manhattan steakhouse became one of the most dramatic mob hits in American history. The scene unfolded like a Hollywood thriller. Gunman waiting, timing perfect, escape clean. His death exposed the dangerous power struggles that shaped not just criminal networks, but industries connected to them, including parts of Hollywood that dealt with unions and production money. 6. Danny Green. Danny Green was a larger-than-life figure whose bold personality drew attention from reporters, filmmakers, and even Hollywood producers looking for inspiration. He survived bombings, assassination attempts, and violent clashes with the Mafia, turning him into a legend long before his death. But his fearless attitude and refusal to bow to criminal leaders sealed his fate. When a car bomb finally ended his life, it was executed with precision by men who had made multiple attempts before. His story later inspired films and documentaries, but the real tragedy lay in how his war with organized crime ended in the most explosive way possible. 5. Dutch Schultz. Dutch Schultz was more than a mobster. He was a figure whose influence stretched straight into show business, nightclubs, and the glittering world that fed Hollywood's nightlife. He controlled venues where rising performers begged for a spotlight, and he handled money that quietly shaped entertainment deals. But when he decided to take out a government prosecutor without approval, he crossed a deadly line. The Mafia voted against him, and his assassination unfolded in a Newark restaurant with icy precision. His violent end showed how quickly power vanished when a man challenged the very organization that once backed him, funding both fear and fame. 4. Crazy Joe Gallo. Crazy Joe Gallo lived like he was born for the spotlight. He mingled with actors, artists, and writers, blending mob business with bohemian glamour. Hollywood personalities were drawn to his charisma, unaware of the danger wrapped around him like a shadow. But Gallo's rebellious streak and his war with rival families made him a marked man. His murder inside a Little Italy restaurant felt theatrical, almost staged, as gunmen surrounded him with ruthless coordination. His death became one of the most dramatic Mafia hits ever recorded, reminding everyone that charm couldn't protect a man who defied an entire criminal empire. 3. Johnny Roselli. Johnny Roselli was Hollywood's unofficial mob ambassador, a smooth operator who dealt with studios, producers, and celebrities while hiding the darker alliances that kept him powerful. He influenced deals, controlled unions, and even brushed against government operations. But when investigations into crime and politics tightened, Roselli became a threat to people far above his level. His body was later found stuffed in an oil drum floating in Biscayne Bay, the kind of cleanup only professionals could execute. His killing sent a chill through both Hollywood and Washington, proving how dangerous it was to know too much in too many worlds. 2. Sam Giancana. Sam Giancana moved through Hollywood with the confidence of a man who owned every room he entered. His relationships with singers, actresses, and A-list entertainers made him a silent power player behind glamorous careers. But when investigators pressed him to testify about political ties, industry deals, and his role in organized crime, Giancana became a liability. The hit came while he cooked in his own kitchen, clean, quiet, and unmistakably professional. His death silenced a man who could have exposed explosive secrets linking mob bosses, celebrities, and politicians in a way Hollywood never wanted the world to see. Bugsy Siegel. Bugsy Siegel lived like a Hollywood star, dressing sharp, charming the elite, and shaping entertainment in ways that permanently tied show business to Las Vegas. He built the Flamingo with dreams of merging luxury, gambling, and celebrity culture. But cost overruns and whispers of betrayal made him a problem for the organization funding him. His assassination inside a Beverly Hills home became one of the most infamous mob murders ever. The precision of the hit left no doubt. Powerful men decided he had become too expensive, too independent, and too unpredictable. His death marked the violent end of a man who dreamed bigger than the mob allowed. In the end, every one of these stories leaves you wondering just how deep Hollywood's shadows really go. If this many deaths still spark questions, cover-ups, and fear decades later, what else is being hidden behind those studio gates? And how many more names were erased before anyone even noticed? If this video opened your eyes, don't let the truth stop here. Hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you never miss the secrets Hollywood hopes you'll ignore. Because the deeper we dig, the darker it gets. So tell me, which story shook you the most? Shook you the most? Shook you the most?
Number 20. Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson was the epitome of the Hollywood leading man, handsome, strong, and adored by millions. But behind the picture-perfect image lay a devastating secret. He was battling AIDS. In the 1980s, when the disease was shrouded in fear and misunderstanding, Hudson's diagnosis was kept hidden from the public. His death in 1985 shattered the carefully constructed facade of Hollywood and opened the world's eyes to the deadly epidemic. Hudson's passing forced the entertainment industry to confront the harsh truth about AIDS, changing the way people viewed the disease forever. It wasn't just the loss of a beloved actor, it was the tragic end of a man who had to live a lie to survive in an unforgiving world. His death marked a turning point in Hollywood's silence about AIDS, leaving a legacy that still resonates today. Number 19, Anthony Perkins. Anthony Perkins was the king of psychological horror, known worldwide for his chilling portrayal of Norman Bates in Psycho. But beneath the eerie charm of his on-screen persona, Perkins was hiding a secret that would eventually consume him. He had been living with HIV. Diagnosed in the late 1980s, Perkins kept his illness a closely guarded secret, continuing to work and maintain his public image until his health began to deteriorate. He died of AIDS-related pneumonia in 1992, just a few months after revealing his condition to the public. Perkins' death was a tragic reminder of the hidden battles many in Hollywood faced, living in fear of their careers being destroyed by the truth. His story is one of courage, pain, and a system that pushed its stars to the brink of silence. Number 18, Brad Davis. Brad Davis was a raw, intense actor, best known for his haunting role in Midnight Express. But behind his powerful performances, Davis was fighting a personal demon that would overshadow his career, a secret HIV diagnosis. Struggling with addiction and the stigma of being diagnosed with a disease that was still misunderstood, Davis fought to keep his private life hidden. His health deteriorated in the early 1990s, and he tragically died in 1991 at the age of 41. Davis's death was a painful reminder of the devastation AIDS brought to Hollywood's elite, leaving behind a legacy marked by both his incredible talent and the hidden battles he faced. His fight against the disease and the stigma that came with it was a battle fought in silence, one that ultimately claimed his life. Number 17, Denholm Elliott. Denholm Elliott was a beloved and respected actor, known for his roles in Indiana Jones and A Room with a View. On screen, he was the embodiment of the charming, seasoned professional. Off-screen, however, Elliott was silently battling AIDS. His death in 1992, after years of keeping his illness hidden, sent shockwaves through the film industry. Fans who had admired him for his wit, grace, and remarkable performances were blindsided by the tragic reality that had remained behind closed doors. Elliott's struggle was one shared by many in Hollywood, forced to live in the shadows due to the stigma of HIV. His death was not just a loss of talent, but a symbol of the unspeakable pain many faced in silence during that era. Number 16, Merritt Butrick. Merritt Butrick was a rising star, most famous for his role in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. But his career, filled with promise and potential, was tragically cut short when he was diagnosed with HIV. At just 29 years old, Butrick died of AIDS-related complications in 1989, leaving behind a legacy that never had the chance to fully unfold. His untimely death was a stark reminder of the young lives lost to the epidemic and how many bright futures were extinguished before they could shine. In Hollywood, where youth and beauty are often prized above all else, Butrick's passing marked a heartbreaking moment, revealing the devastating impact of a disease that didn't discriminate based on age or talent. Number 15, Dak Rambo. Dak Rambo was the picture of a television action hero, known for his roles in The Rookies and Dallas. But his life took a courageous turn when he publicly revealed his HIV status in the early 1990s, something few stars dared to do at the time. Rambo's bravery in the face of the disease shattered the silence surrounding AIDS in Hollywood. He continued to work despite his diagnosis, becoming an advocate for awareness and change. In 1994, Rambo passed away from complications related to AIDS, but his public revelation paved the way for others in Hollywood to come forward. His courage not only helped break the silence, but also gave voice to a community that had been silenced for too long. Number 14, Gene Anthony Ray. Best known as Leroy in fame, Ray became an icon of raw energy and talent in the 1980s, but fame came fast and hit hard. Behind the scenes, Ray battled addiction, poverty, and the heavy burden of hiding who he was. When he died in 2003 at just 41, it was reported as a stroke, but the truth soon surfaced. AIDS had taken another star. His story was heartbreaking, a reflection of how stigma and silence crushed so many during the height of the epidemic. Ray had once danced like nothing could stop him, but in the end, it was the world's judgment and fear that caught up. Number 13, Michael Jeter. Michael Jeter, with his quirky charm and unforgettable presence, left his mark in films like Jurassic Park 3 and The Green Mile. Known for playing oddball roles with heart, he brought joy to millions. But behind the scenes, Jeter was living with HIV, something he kept private for most of his life. He eventually died in 2003 from AIDS-related complications, and the news stunned his fans. The man who could bring a scene to life with just a glance was gone too soon. Jeter's death was another blow to an industry that had already lost so many to the same silent killer. Number 12, Anthony Hamilton. He had the look, the talent, and the charm, but AIDS brought his rise to a heartbreaking stop. Anthony Hamilton was a rising star in the 1980s and 1990s, known for his handsome looks and strong screen presence. He had all the makings of a Hollywood leading man, but just as his career was picking up, Hamilton was diagnosed with HIV. Opportunities began to vanish, and soon his life spiraled out of the spotlight. He died in 1995, barely making a ripple in an industry that had once welcomed him. Hamilton's death was another quiet tragedy, the kind Hollywood kept in the shadows. He could have been the next big thing, but instead, he became another name lost to silence. Number 11, Tom Fuccello. Fuccello was a familiar face on television, especially in soap operas and action-packed shows throughout the 70s and 80s. With rugged charm and a steady presence, he seemed unstoppable. But in the early 90s, his life took a tragic turn when he was diagnosed with AIDS. He passed away in 1993, and like so many others, his death was largely ignored by the industry. Fuccello was part of a generation of actors whose lives were quietly stolen by a disease Hollywood refused to talk about. His story reminds us that behind every polished headshot and action role, there was often a man fighting a terrifying and lonely battle. Number 10, Tom Villard. He wasn't just another face in horror and action. Tom Villard was one of the few brave enough to speak the truth. Villard starred in cult favorites and thrillers, building a steady career in Hollywood. But in the early 1990s, when most were still silent, he made the courageous choice to publicly reveal his AIDS diagnosis. It was rare, it was bold, and it was risky. He appeared on television and spoke openly, hoping to change minds in an era filled with fear and misinformation. Sadly, Villard died in 1994, but not before becoming a symbol of strength and honesty. His voice helped open the door for others to speak. In a town built on make-believe, Tom Villard chose truth. Number 9, Steve Tracy. Best known as Percival Dalton on Little House on the Prairie, Tracy brought warmth and depth to the screen. But beyond the family-friendly roles, he was fighting something far more serious. Diagnosed with AIDS in the mid-1980s, Tracy faced the illness head-on during a time when very few did. He died in 1986, one of the earliest public figures in Hollywood to succumb to the disease. His passing deeply affected co-stars and fans alike. Tracy's death wasn't just a loss, it was a wake-up call. He lived and died in a world that made it dangerous, to be honest. But even in silence, his courage spoke volumes. Number 8, Kevin Peter Hall. Standing over 7 feet tall, Hall was unforgettable as the fearsome predator in Predator and the gentle giant in Harry and the Hendersons. But his towering presence couldn't protect him from a tragic twist of fate. After receiving a blood transfusion following a car accident, Hall contracted HIV. It wasn't something he could have seen coming, and it wasn't something he could beat. In 1991, he died of AIDS-related pneumonia at just 35 years old. His death was sudden, shocking, and deeply unfair. The man who brought monsters to life on screen was taken by a monster the world still didn't fully understand. Number 7, Robert Reed. As Mike Brady on The Brady Bunch, Robert Reed was the image of the perfect father. But beyond the wholesome scripts and fatherly advice, Reed lived a life full of silent struggles. He appeared in many action-packed TV roles over the years, showing off a range that fans often overlooked. In 1992, he died of colon cancer, but it was later revealed that he was also HIV positive. The truth stunned fans and castmates alike. Reed had kept his illness and his sexuality hidden from the world, knowing that one revelation could destroy everything he had built. His death was a tragic reminder of how fear and stigma forced even the most beloved stars into silence. Number 6, Howard Rollins Jr. He was a rising star with undeniable talent. But Howard Rollins Jr.'s career and life unraveled in the shadows. Best known for his role in the Heat of the Night, Rollins brought power and grace to every performance. He earned critical acclaim early on, even an Oscar nomination, and seemed destined for long-lasting fame. But personal demons soon crept in: addiction, legal troubles, and a growing health crisis. In 1996, Rollins died from AIDS-related complications. At just 46, his story ended far too soon. The once promising actor had battled not just illness, but also an industry that wasn't ready to face the truth. His fall from stardom wasn't just a personal tragedy. It reflected how Hollywood often turned its back on those it didn't want to understand. Number 5, John Curry. After winning Olympic gold in 1976, Curry became a global sensation. His artistry and athleticism broke boundaries in the sports world. But behind the graceful performances was a man hiding his truth. As one of the first major athletes to be openly gay, Curry faced harsh criticism and rejection. In the early 90s, he was diagnosed with AIDS, and his health quickly declined. He died in 1994, just 44 years old. Though not a Hollywood action star in the traditional sense, Curry's influence reached far into the entertainment world. His death was another painful reminder of the toll the epidemic took on brilliant, brave souls who dared to be different. Number 4, Klaus Nomi. With his alien-like appearance and operatic voice, Nomi wasn't your typical Hollywood figure, yet his performances captivated audiences, blending music, theater, and film in ways no one had seen before. As his fame grew in the early 80s, so did a mysterious illness that doctors couldn't explain. It was AIDS, at a time when the world barely knew its name. In 1983, Klaus Nomi became one of the first celebrities to die from AIDS-related complications. He was just 39. His death shook the arts community and highlighted how the disease didn't care about fame or talent. Nomi's life was full of color, drama, and defiance, and yet it ended in silence. Number 3, Paul Shenar. In films like Scarface and The Secret of NIMH, Shenar brought unforgettable intensity to his roles. He was the kind of actor who stole scenes with just a glance, but while the cameras loved his dark charisma, Shenar kept his real life carefully hidden. In 1989, he died of AIDS-related complications. Just as his career was gaining real traction, his death was quiet, barely making headlines. Another example of how Hollywood buried uncomfortable truths. Paul Shenar deserved more roles, more recognition, more time, but the silence around his illness speaks volumes about an era too afraid to speak at all. Number 2, Charles Ludlam. Ludlam wasn't your average actor. He was bold, flamboyant, and unapologetically outrageous. As the creator of the ridiculous theatrical company, he challenged norms and blended drama, comedy, and activism in unforgettable ways. He crossed into film and TV, leaving an unmistakable mark. But in 1987, Ludlam died of AIDS-related complications at just 44 years old. His passing wasn't just a loss to the stage, it was a gut punch to the entire creative world. Ludlam had dared to live openly and honestly when so few could. His art demanded attention, but even someone as loud and fearless as Ludlam couldn't drown out the silence that surrounded AIDS at the time. Number 1, Liberace. Few performers lit up a room like Liberace. With glittering costumes and a showman's flair, he was one of the most famous entertainers in the world. But despite his flamboyant persona, Liberace never publicly acknowledged his sexuality. When he died in 1987, the official cause was heart failure. But the truth came out. He had died from AIDS-related complications. His family denied it at first, desperate to protect the image he had carefully built. It was only after pressure from the press that the truth was finally confirmed. Liberace's story is one of tragic irony, a man who lived in the spotlight yet couldn't live his truth. These 20 action icons didn't just face a deadly disease, they faced a society that turned its back on them, an industry that demanded silence, and a legacy that could have vanished in the shadows. How many more stars lived in fear, their truth buried with them? If this moved you, don't let their stories fade. Like, comment, and share to keep their names alive, and make sure the world remembers what they were really fighting for.
10. Wesley Snipes. In the late 90s, Wesley Snipes was Hollywood royalty. His performance in Blade didn't just redefine action movies, it made him a global icon. He was sharp, strong, and fearless, both on screen and off. The kind of star whose every move screamed confidence. But as his fame grew, something darker started to take hold. The same fire that made him unstoppable began to burn him from the inside. Behind the sunglasses and swagger, Snipes was drowning in pressure. Fame, money, and power came fast, and so did the temptations that came with them. People close to him spoke of wild parties, ego clashes, and whispers of heavy drug use that blurred his once clear focus. The man who trained like a warrior was now losing battles against his own habits. His once legendary discipline crumbled, replaced by pride and paranoia. When Blade turned into a blockbuster franchise, Snipes thought he was untouchable. He became difficult to work with, constantly feuding with directors and co-stars. Drugs and arrogance mixed like poison, pushing him further away from reality. Then came the tax evasion scandal, a headline that shattered his clean image and exposed how far he'd fallen. Hollywood's action king was suddenly sitting behind bars, facing years away from the screen. The prison sentence didn't just take his freedom, it broke his career. By the time Snipes tried to return, the industry had already moved on. The man who once ruled the box office had become a ghost of his former self. Wesley Snipes' story isn't just about bad choices or broken laws. It's about how addiction and pride can strip away everything: fame, fortune, and even the fire that once made you unstoppable. 9. Gary Busey. Gary Busey was born to stand out. His energy was electric, his performances unforgettable, and his personality impossible to ignore. In the late 70s, he was one of Hollywood's most promising stars, earning an Oscar nomination for the Buddy Holly story. But success brought chaos, and Busey was never the type to handle fame quietly. The world loved his wild side, until it went too far. In 1988, a horrific motorcycle crash changed everything. He suffered severe head trauma, leaving both physical and emotional scars that would never fully heal. Instead of slowing down, he turned to cocaine and other powerful drugs to numb the pain and fill the growing emptiness inside him. What started as a way to cope quickly became an addiction that devoured his life. His charm turned into aggression, his confidence into delusion. Directors stopped calling, friends backed away. Busey became infamous for his outbursts, unpredictable behavior, and bizarre public appearances. He wasn't just an actor anymore. Hollywood had once seen him as a future legend, but now he was a walking warning. The man who could have been an action icon was now spiraling between madness and addiction. Over time, his addiction warped his reputation. He joined reality shows, often appearing confused or unstable, and audiences laughed instead of admiring him. His once bright talent was buried under years of self-destruction. Gary Busey's downfall wasn't caused by one bad choice. It was the result of years of pain, addiction, and denial. A man who once had Hollywood at his feet ended up trapped in his own chaos, proving that fame and drugs never mix without a price. 8. Nick Nolte. Nick Nolte was once the ultimate Hollywood tough guy, rugged, charming, and unpredictable in the best way. His voice had grit, his stare had intensity, and his roles in films like 48 Hours and The Prince of Tides made him one of the most respected actors of his time. But behind that rough-edged charisma, Nolte was quietly battling an addiction that would nearly destroy his life. He wasn't just playing damaged men on screen, he was living it in real life. As fame grew, Nolte leaned heavily on alcohol and drugs to keep up with the pressure. He was known to drink endlessly, mixing alcohol with GHB, a dangerous substance that made him lose control completely. Friends watched as his confidence turned into self-destruction. By the early 2000s, his face told the story. Tired eyes, wild hair, and that infamous mugshot that became a symbol of how far he'd fallen. The photo of him, disheveled and dazed, wasn't just a tabloid sensation. It was a cry for help from a man who had hit rock bottom. Hollywood, once in awe of his talent, now saw him as a cautionary tale. His addiction had taken everything: his health, his career, and his reputation. Nolte later admitted that drugs and alcohol had completely consumed him, turning him into someone he didn't even recognize anymore. It took years for him to rebuild his life and earn back respect, but the scars of addiction never fully faded. Nick Nolte's story is more than just a tale of drugs. It's a story of how Hollywood's golden rebels can lose everything when fame, loneliness, and addiction collide. He was the kind of star who could have had it all forever, but addiction reminded him how fragile power really is. 7. Tom Sizemore. Tom Sizemore was the kind of actor who didn't just play soldiers and cops, he became them. His performances in Heat, Saving Private Ryan, and Black Hawk Down made him one of the most intense action stars of the 90s. But behind that tough, fearless persona, Sizemore was living a nightmare that few could imagine. Fame had given him everything, but drugs took it all back, piece by piece. Sizemore's addiction to meth and heroin was legendary in Hollywood. He was arrested countless times, failed drug tests, and even appeared on a reality show that documented his struggle. At one point, he admitted that he couldn't go a single day without using. The man who once worked beside Robert De Niro and Tom Hanks became a walking tragedy. Talented but broken beyond repair. His addiction didn't just destroy his career, it ruined his personal life too. He lost roles, relationships, and even his home. Friends tried to save him, but Sizemore always fell back into the same dark cycle. Each comeback attempt ended in another mugshot or another relapse. His eyes, once full of fire, began to look empty, like he knew the battle was already lost. Even in his final years, Sizemore tried to stay clean, but the damage was done. Hollywood had moved on, and the man who once played heroes on screen could no longer save himself. His death became a heartbreaking reminder that addiction doesn't care how talented or famous you are. Tom Sizemore's story stands as one of Hollywood's most painful examples of brilliance destroyed by addiction, a powerful actor who became a prisoner of his own demons. 6. Charlie Sheen. There was a time when Charlie Sheen was the most bankable star on television. With his smooth charm and bad boy confidence, he ruled both Hollywood and pop culture. From his explosive roles in Platoon and Wall Street to his hilarious performance in 2.5 Men, Sheen had everything: fame, fortune, and fan love. But behind the laughs and movie magic, he was fighting a losing war with himself. Charlie's addiction to cocaine and alcohol was no secret. His wild parties, all-night binges, and reckless behavior became legendary in the worst way. He surrounded himself with drugs, women, and people who fueled his habits instead of helping him escape them. For years, he somehow managed to keep working, delivering hits even while living in chaos. But eventually, it all came crashing down. In 2011, the world watched his meltdown unfold live. The interviews, the catchphrases, the bizarre, winning rants. It was painful entertainment. Sheen's downfall wasn't just about drugs. It was about a man losing touch with reality in front of millions. His addiction had turned him into a caricature of himself, someone who couldn't tell the difference between power and destruction. Hollywood cut ties, his reputation was shattered, and his career collapsed. Later, when Sheen revealed his HIV diagnosis, it became clear how deeply his reckless lifestyle had damaged him. Though he's spoken about getting clean and finding peace, the world still remembers the chaos more than the talent. Charlie Sheen's story shows how quickly addiction can turn Hollywood's golden boy into its biggest tragedy, a superstar who burned too bright and lost everything in the fire. 5. Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke was once Hollywood's golden rebel, the kind of man who didn't just act, he lived his roles. With his smoldering looks and natural intensity, he gave unforgettable performances in 9.5 Weeks, Angel Heart, and The Pope of Greenwich Village. He wasn't just another actor, he was a force. But that same intensity that made him brilliant also became his undoing. By the late 80s, Rourke was consumed by drugs, alcohol, and self-destruction. He turned his back on fame, burned bridges with directors, and lost his grip on reality. His addictions made him unpredictable and volatile. Friends said he would disappear for days, drowning in cocaine and chaos. When Hollywood finally had enough, Rourke walked away, straight into the brutal world of professional boxing. Boxing gave him discipline, but also brought more pain and more drugs. His once handsome face was permanently damaged, and the man who once captivated audiences was now almost unrecognizable. Rourke's addiction had stripped him of everything that made him special: his beauty, his charm, and his career. Years later, he made an emotional comeback with The Wrestler, a performance that mirrored his real life, a broken man trying to rise again. It was raw, painful, and heartbreakingly real because he was that man. Though Rourke has spoken about his long recovery and faith, the scars of addiction still mark every part of his story. He was the beautiful disaster, a man who had it all, lost it all, and somehow survived just long enough to tell the tale. 4. Steven Seagal. In the late 80s and early 90s, Steven Seagal was the ultimate action hero. With his slick ponytail, black leather jackets, and deadly calm, he brought something new to Hollywood's fight scenes: real martial arts mastery mixed with quiet menace. Movies like Above the Law and Under Siege turned him into a household name. But while his on-screen persona was all discipline and control, his off-screen life slowly spiraled into chaos. As fame inflated his ego, Seagal began living like a rock star instead of a martial artist. He surrounded himself with luxury, flattery, and temptation. Those close to him said his growing arrogance was fueled not only by power, but by a growing dependence on painkillers and prescription drugs. His once lean body changed, his focus vanished, and his performances began to lose the sharp energy that had made him famous. By the mid-2000s, the man who once symbolized strength and calm became known for erratic behavior, slurred speech, and a bloated appearance. Fans started to wonder if drugs, rather than discipline, had become his new master. Seagal's addiction, combined with his self-importance, drove people away: directors, co-stars, and even his audience. The martial arts master who once commanded respect now seemed like a parody of himself. Eventually, his movies went straight to DVD, his reputation tarnished beyond repair. Seagal's downfall wasn't just professional. It was personal. The man who built a career on control had lost control of everything that mattered. His story stands as a reminder that fame without humility and strength without balance lead only to destruction. Steven Seagal, once the quiet killer of the big screen, became a victim of his own excess and addiction. 3. Jean-Claude Van Damme. Jean-Claude Van Damme was the very definition of an action icon. The muscles from Brussels could kick higher, punch faster, and move with precision that seemed superhuman. With blockbusters like Bloodsport, Kickboxer, and Universal Soldier, he became one of the biggest names of the 90s. But behind the perfect physique and charming smile, Van Damme was crumbling. At the height of his fame, he was working non-stop, sometimes shooting multiple films a year, living off adrenaline and ego. The pressure to stay on top, to remain the flawless action hero, was suffocating. So he turned to cocaine for energy and escape. What started as casual use became a full-blown addiction that nearly ended his life. At one point, he admitted to spending thousands of dollars a week on drugs, using every hour just to keep going. As the addiction deepened, Van Damme's behavior grew unpredictable. He would show up late on set, argue with directors, and forget his lines. His body, once his greatest weapon, began to betray him. The sparkle in his eyes dulled, replaced by exhaustion and paranoia. The man who was once admired for discipline had lost all control. By the mid-90s, his career was in ruins. The action world had moved on, and Van Damme was fighting not villains, but his own reflection. After several failed marriages and a public breakdown, he finally sought help. Years later, he returned, cleaner and humbler, admitting that his addiction almost destroyed everything he loved. Jean-Claude Van Damme's story isn't just about drugs, it's about how even the strongest man can fall when he tries to fight his demons alone. 2. Robert Downey Jr. Before Robert Downey Jr. became Iron Man, he was Hollywood's most unpredictable wild card. In the 80s and 90s, he had everything: charm, talent, good looks, and a family name that opened every door. Critics called him a genius, a once-in-a-generation actor who could play anyone. But behind the praise was a man spiraling deeper into addiction, trapped in a cycle that nearly destroyed him. Downey grew up surrounded by fame and temptation. His father, also an actor and filmmaker, introduced him to drugs at an early age, a decision that would shape the rest of his life. As his career soared, so did his dependence on cocaine and heroin. He'd show up to sets intoxicated, miss lines, and disappear for days. Even as fans admired his brilliance, Hollywood insiders whispered that he was one overdose away from tragedy. In the mid-90s, Downey's addiction finally caught up with him. He was arrested multiple times for possession, spent time in jail, and was dropped from major film projects. His fall was painful to watch. A gifted man turned prisoner of his own vices. At his lowest, he broke into a stranger's home and fell asleep in a child's bed while high. It seemed his career was gone for good, but somehow he found the strength to fight back. After years of rehab, therapy, and rebuilding, Downey turned his pain into power. When he landed the role of Tony Stark in Iron Man, it felt like destiny, a real-life redemption arc. The world watched as the man who once symbolized Hollywood's excess became the symbol of resilience. Robert Downey Jr. proved that even the worst junkie can rise again, turning his darkest chapter into one of the greatest comebacks in movie history. 1. Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise has always been seen as Hollywood's clean-cut action hero, fearless, charming, and in control. From Top Gun to Mission Impossible, he built a reputation as the man who could do anything, from death-defying stunts to billion-dollar box office runs. But behind the dazzling smile and polished image, whispers have followed him for decades. rumors of drug use, control issues, and secret battles hidden under his superstar persona. Unlike other stars whose addictions were visible, Cruise's story is wrapped in mystery. Insiders from his early career spoke of stimulant use during his rise, a way to keep up with the impossible demands of fame, energy, and perfection. The pressure to stay the world's most bankable action star pushed him toward exhaustion and emotional instability. He built an image of control, yet it was clear that something darker was fueling that intensity. His connection to Scientology only deepened the intrigue, with many claiming the church helped him hide his inner chaos rather than heal it. While there's no public proof of heavy drug use, his erratic interviews, manic energy, and obsessive behavior suggested a man constantly running from something. Whether it was addiction to substances or to control itself, Tom Cruise became an example of Hollywood's strangest addiction: the need to appear untouchable. For decades, he's managed to stay on top, but the cracks in the armor show more with each passing year. The endless stunts, the perfect image, the forced smile. It all feels like a man trying to escape his own shadow. Tom Cruise may not have the mugshots or public meltdowns others did, but his obsession with perfection and control mirrors the same dangerous patterns that destroyed many before him. In Hollywood, addiction doesn't always look messy. Sometimes it hides behind the brightest smile. Hollywood loves its heroes, strong, fearless, untouchable. But behind the flashing lights and million-dollar smiles, even the toughest icons can fall to their darkest demons. It makes you wonder, how many of today's action stars are secretly fighting the same silent battle? How many smiles hide a story we'll only hear when it's too late? If you found these stories eye-opening, don't just scroll away. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with someone who loves the truth behind Hollywood's shine. Because behind every action legend, there's always a darker story waiting to be told.